Welcome to CityWise. I'm your host, Tiana Stevens. CityWise is produced by the City of Rochester to shine a spotlight on city living at its best. Well, it may not seem like it yet with all of the snow still on the ground, but the end of the school year is just a few months away, and that means that teens will be in need of summer jobs. We're joined by Kareem Hayes with the city's Summer of Opportunity program, as well as Antoine Williams with the Rochester Works Summer Youth Employment Program, and they're ready to help. Thanks for joining us today, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
So when we say youth and teens, what ages specifically are we talking about?
So we're talking about 14 to 20 youth who are still in school.
Okay.
Or in a task program.
Okay, so what was formerly called the GED?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and what do youth need to do to apply?
So there's a process. First, there's the application process that's online.
Okay.
And the deadline for that is Friday, March 13th. And then from there, there's parent orientations for youth who are 14 and 15, and there's also an interview, mock interview process for 16 plus youth at the Blue Cross Arena.
So let's just step back a little bit. I'm going to have each of you describe the programs and how they're similar, how they're different. Antoine?
Okay. So for the 14 and 15-year-old group, they apply online. They're to turn in their supporting documentation, and there's a mandatory parent orientation for their age group. Versus the 16 and older, they apply, they turn in their supporting documentation, but then they also have to register for a mock interview at the Blue Cross Arena. So there's the difference. 16 and older, we take them through the mock interview process versus the 14 and 15-year-olds. Once they're connected to program, they will learn the interviewing skills there.
And this has been happening year after year, and it just becomes more and more popular. And how many kids have applied so far?
We're looking at over 3,000 youth who've applied.
Wow. So that's why we're starting so early.
Yes.
Okay, and so walk us through what happens at the Blue Cross Arena. It's a very big event. Lots of kids there all at once.
Yeah, it's quite an event.
Well, actually, this year we're doing something different because last year when the 16 and older apply, right, we assigned them a date, time, and location automatically. But this year we heard the responses from the surveys, and this year we're allowing the young people to pick the day, time that they're available to go through the mock interview at the Blue Cross Arena. So every 15 minutes we have a slew of 30 kids walking in to be interviewed. And so at the interview process, there'll be interview, but at the very end, the person interviewing them would then provide them constructive feedback on their attire, how well they did, and anything that they can do to better their interviewing skills for the next round.
And the folks that we have interviewing them are volunteers from the community. And so it's a great gesture to know that the community is behind this, they're behind us, and most importantly behind the youth and really helping them with their work experience. Are
you still looking for volunteers to help out with that effort?
We are looking for volunteers to help for our Blue Cross Arena interviews.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what are you looking for in a job-ready candidate, especially someone that's 14 years old, that's very young?
Well,
we're looking at the attire because regardless of age, that's what the employer is going to look for. Now, even though this is programming, yes, first impression. So even though this is programming, this is what we're going to teach as we're taking them through the process. So attire, eye contact, handshake, and just being able to articulate why they should be hired over, the 3,000 that apply. That's in their same category.
Right. Out of 3,000, what would you say, how many make it through the whole process and are placed in employment?
Well, last year we had also over 3,000 youth apply, so it's pretty consistent. But with that, we had over 900 jobs for youth last year, and so it's very competitive. And to add on to what employers are looking for in a candidate, I would also say initiative and follow through are very important for those kids who were successful in earning a job. Those were the ones who followed through and had the initiative, and also had an adult or someone in their life to help them through the process.
Now, what sort of jobs are teens going to be placed in?
For the 16 and older, we're looking at recreation. We're looking at office jobs, customer service, groundskeeping, the list goes on. I kid you not, at Rochester Works, we have a business services team that is going through that recruitment phase of connecting with employers to get their buy-in to be able to provide this work experience for the 16 and older.
Okay, how do you go about matching kids with the right fit? Do you take a survey on their interests and their abilities, that sort of thing?
Exactly. Yes. So we're looking at their interests, we're looking at how well they interviewed at the Blue Cross Arena, and then we're also, even though it's not a criteria, we're looking at their report cards.
Okay.
So for example, if someone wants to do something in recreation, but they're failing gym, it doesn't make sense to, connect them with recreation. So we take all those things into consideration.
Yeah.
Okay. How important is it working with the community? You must work year-round to make these connections, to make all these jobs happen. How does that go about?
Well, I think for us it's just really about forming relationships. With folks in the community. There's definitely a need for youth to be employed in the city. To gain that valuable work experience and to be the next generation of adults who will be carrying on this great city here of Rochester. So we're always out forming different relationships. We're always looking for more employers to be part of the Summer of Opportunity program, Summer Youth Employment program. And so, it's very, very important.
Do you find that the same kids, obviously some will age out and go on to college or jobs, but do you find that the same kids return every year, and do they need to reapply?
I would say a great percentage of the young people who applied last year will also apply this year. Now, is there a guarantee that they'll get the exact same job that they had last year? No. But the most important thing is for them to apply, to follow the process, and then from there we will connect them where we see fit.
Okay. And do they work 40 hours a week? What is is there a limit that, especially for the younger kids?
Yeah, that's definitely
6 weeks. 6 weeks, 120 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the program level, most of the programs will start at 12 o'clock. Versus the older kids that we connect with employers, there's some leeway for the employer and the young person to work out a schedule as long as it doesn't go over 120 hours. Okay.
Now, you're a success story yourself. You went through Summer of Opportunity program. Tell us about yourself and how you got to this point today.
Wow. Yes, I went through the summer employment program back in the day, and from there, during my college years, I was able to run the summer employment program. And then after I graduated from college, I connected with the funder at that time, Rochester Resource Alliance, and was able to go back and monitor the program that I once ran. And then just over the years, having been at Rochester Works for going on 12 years now, now I'm the Director of Youth System Services.
300 applications, 900 jobs. It's a lot to manage. What keeps you motivated to do this work?
I've been there and I've done it, and I realized the importance of being exposed to these opportunities. And so I think that's key in connecting with the young people today. I know a lot of them, as a result of having a lack of exposure, they're clueless in terms of what they want to do when they grow up, and that's why they struggle in school. So hopefully by them going through this process and us being able to connect them with employers, we give them some hope in terms of, okay, if you finish school and go on to pursue higher ed or some type of training, you will eventually get to a point in your life where you're self-sufficient and you no longer have to depend on your parents.
Yeah, well, I can even attest to that too. My first job, I always like to tell the story about my first job. My father was actually my first employer. I contracted with him as a paper boy. And so I remember getting up for, 5 in the morning and, just delivering papers. And then from there, I was able to get a job with a local employer. And I was there for between 4 to 5 years to my first year of college. And so, what motivates me is just knowing that, the youth are getting the experience, same experience that I had, and I was fortunate to have it, knowing that this is going to help them for the rest of their lives. Sure. So for us, it's just about sowing that seed, into their lives and having people there to help and support them, knowing that they're gonna blossom, when they get older to adults.
Now, throughout the school year, what are the other resources that are available for for youth seeking employment or training, that sort of thing?
I know with the city, we have our Operation Transformation Rochester,
Okay.
and we have our youth employment training that happens on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And with that training, it's between 20 to 25 hours, and we're working with youth with customer service, how to fill out an application, resumes, how to search for jobs, and that with that program, once you finish and they complete it, then we would help them with jobs, with getting interviews. Also, again, having relationships with employers and really helping to put them into jobs. We really want youth to work in the summer, but also in year round as well, because like we said before, it's a great experience, and I remember being able to work year-round and not having to ask mom or dad for money, or in my case, having to give an explanation for why.
And Antoine, finally, what are some of the resources that Rochester Works for youth? I know there's a lot of information on the website, job postings.
So definitely check out the resources online, because I'm sure I will forget something, but we have career service specialists at all of our sites who are able and willing to meet with a young person, to kind of meet them where they're at, assess them, and then from there map out a plan to get them connected to employment or education. Wonderful.
Thank you so much for your time today. If you'd like to learn more about the city's Summer of Opportunity program, or OTR, or Rochester Works, call 428-6366. The website is cityofrochester.gov/soup, and Rochester Works website is rochesterworks.org. CityWise will be right back.
Many people have never heard the acronym EDIF. It stands for Exit Drill in the Home. Every household needs to have an escape plan in case of fire, and every room should have 2 means of egress. Egress means a way out. This plan needs to be understood by all members of the household and practiced often. Once you are out, stay out. Never re-enter a burning structure. Let the firefighters do their job. For more fire safety tips, visit cityofrochester.gov/RFD.
For more than 40 years, the Rochester Educational Opportunity Center at the College at Brockport has been meeting the needs of the community by providing academic and career training programs that equip students with the skills needed to go on to college or to rejoin the workforce. The key word in REOC is opportunity. It's the only tuition-free adult training facility in the area, and here to tell us more is Dean and Executive Director Roosevelt Marius and Patricia Beaudry, Community Relations Coordinator. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting us.
So REOC has a long history. How did this all get started?
Well, REOC, like you said, has been around for a little over 40 years, and we actually started as 2 separate entities, a cooperative college and urban centers, and they both were looking to fulfill the needs of individuals who typically could not go the standard route to either college or start a career. So a brilliant man 40 years ago decided to combine resources and form what we now know as the Educational Opportunity Centers. There's actually 10 EOCs in New York State.
Okay, and has it always were the 2 locations in Rochester?
Yes, for those 2 locations, they were in Rochester for those 2 urban centers and the cooperative college.
And now you're in a fairly new building, beautiful facility downtown.
And the students who graduated from the old building, they want to come back.
Really?
Our EOC was created for those who are underserved and undereducated, and each year we average about 1,300 students.
Wow.
And we offer a lot of great programs, tuition free.
What are some of the programs that are offered?
Some of the programs that we have, our signature programs are in healthcare. So for example, home health aide or certified nursing assistant, emergency medical technician, pharmacy technician, licensed practical nursing, surgical technologist, just to name a few. And then we have some in not so much the healthcare related to patients, but more records, so medical secretary, barbering. We have our own culinary bistro on site for a culinary arts program, security guard, child development, cosmetology, and barbering.
Okay, you mentioned a security program there, which is very interesting because you have a very amazing success story, Roosevelt. Can you tell us about that?
Well, about 15 years ago, I started working at REOC as a security guard. While working at REOC, I decided to go back to school, to the college at Brockport. Shortly after I graduated from the college at Brockport, I transitioned to the admission office. While working in the admission office, I went back to school and got my master's in strategic leadership at Roberts. And 5 years ago, I became the Dean Executive Director of the Rochester Educational Opportunity Center.
Why is this work important to you? Why did you go back to REOC?
I think because the mission that we do at REOC, every day at REOC we transform lives. Every day the students are knocking on my door, they want to talk to me about my experience, and what I do is I walk around and interact with them, let them know there's hope for you. You know, our REOC is going to get you there, but you have to do your part. So we do a lot of work in the community.
So Patty, do students earn credit or certificate, or how does that work?
Our programs are certificate programs, and they're also New York State licensure programs. So there's a combination of both. However, we have very good connections with colleges. For example, our licensed practical nursing program. If a student takes that program and completes and gets their certificate and state licensure, they can go on to another college and be fast-tracked into the RM program. So the same thing with our Child Development Associate program, and there's some credits that can be honored in another college after they complete our program as well.
So imagine you come to our EOC and you complete the LPN program after 11 months, tuition free. You're not in debt, and you still can have a career in the field. And if you choose to go back to go get your RN, now you have a career, you have a job that can help you to do that.
Gives you a great head start.
Yes.
How do most students come to you? How do they hear about REOC?
Word of mouth, probably. It's like we have generation, like there's a current student right now, her grandparents came to our EOC.
Wow.
Her mother came to our EOC, and now she's coming to our EOC.
Why are resources like this so important in Rochester?
As you know, poverty is big in Rochester, so definitely school like our EOC, there's a need for what we do. You know, as I mentioned, when our students graduate from our EOC, they don't have to worry about being in debt. And furthermore, when they come to our EOC, not only we give them the academic side, we also address some of the barriers that they come with.
What are some of those barriers, you think?
You know, some of the barriers, I think, Tiana, are not even when they're in the class. It's getting to REOC in the first place. Taking that first step through the door and understanding that what is it that I have to be able to overcome or maybe put on hold to be able to concentrate myself for that year that I'm, or however long that they're going to be at the REOC. So the barriers are to get them through the door, and the barriers are to keep them motivated and have them keep themselves motivated and say, what do I have as a backup plan in place for maybe some of the things that I took for granted that I do every day?
What are the qualifications that a student needs to have before they come there? Paperwork, that sort of thing?
Definitely. The first thing our students have to do is go online and apply. And once they go online and apply, an admission advisor contact them and tell them about the next step, which is they have to schedule a tape test. After the tape test, they have to bring some paperwork. They also have to be a New York State resident. And the funny thing about being a New York State resident is we have people who live in the Bronx.
Wow.
Travel, move to Rochester to be part of our LPN program.
Wow.
2 years ago, we had somebody from Buffalo who came to our Surge Tech program, and they were traveling from Buffalo to Rochester every day.
Right.
Do you have to be a certain age to apply or have any degrees?
Right. Well, you have to be at least 17 or 18 years old, depending on when your class would have graduated from school. And it is income-based as to whether they're eligible. And technically, it's an individual who has not had any experience in college or very little experience in college.
So when a student comes to you and they're not sure what they want to do, but they know they want to do something, how do you help tune them into the right fit for them?
That's a very good question. We have 3 advisors in the admission office who meet with them and talk to them and guide them to ensure, because one thing that we don't want to do is to accept a student in the program and they're not successful, because we all about outcome. That's why we have a great advisor and counselors to meet with the students to help them and guide them with the process.
Can a student take more than one class or program at a time?
Well, technically they can take more than one at a time.
Okay.
So the standard track would be if they were, for example, to get their high school equivalency. They could take their high school equivalency, achieve that, and then go on to any of our other programs in occupational trades or continue on to college. And the whole mindset behind that for us is that we want them to be successful. And it's really hard to juggle their life in addition to one program, much less two programs.
Right, and I noticed on the schedule a lot of the classes are at night or different times during the day.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Patty mentioned, most of our students, they have family. So we understand that they have to take care of their family. So we're trying to have program at times where they'll be successful.
How do you decide on which programs to bring or which ones to phase out maybe as the economy changes through the years?
I think a lot of time we scan the community of Rochester and the surrounding area to see what are the needs, and based on the needs, and we also have conversation with Rochester Works to see, okay, what jobs are they looking for? You know, we don't want to have program just to have program. We want to make sure that our students are successful. So between the senior staff, Patty, all of us, you know, we have great discussion and say, okay, maybe it's time for us to scale back this program a little bit, or maybe it's time for us to implement this new program. For example, we've been getting a lot of phone calls for phlebotomy. So that's something we're looking at.
We have an excellent career services staff as well, so they're very supportive not only of the students as they're going through the program, they're also supportive of the individuals who may not be sure when they come through our doors. They support the admission staff. And then also career services looks at what the in-demand occupations may be. And based on that in-demand, because again, we're all about outcomes, so we want to make sure those students get placed in college or a career. So the career services staff advises Mr. Marius about which programs would be more successful for our students to get a job and start their career.
Okay, and then is there some follow-up maybe 5 years down the line? Do you keep in touch with students?
Definitely the career office, they do that. Plus the students, they always call us back saying, okay, this is what we're doing right now. So this is the type of relationship that we have with our students before they leave. That's why I go around and interact with them. So when they do leave and graduate, they come back and let us know the good things they're doing.
You know, it's really funny too. I think if you were to go out and go to the gas station or go to the local supermarket and you talk to maybe 2 or 3 individuals, there'd be a couple that would have graduated or have a family member that graduated from the EOC.
You've made a lot of resources available also on your website. Can you talk about that?
We have in-house, we have a cash program for those that would like to get their taxes done. We have a SNAP program for those individuals receiving food stamps. So we have those supported services as well. We also offer to the public the ability for those that do not have their high school diploma yet to come in and take the official readiness test and see where they would score on that test and either say to them, okay, would you like to come in for a program at EOC? Maybe you need some tutoring, or we can sign you up to take the actual test the next time because we're an official test site.
Okay. How long does like a typical program run?
Oh, it varies. It could go anywhere from 1 day, which is a security guard program, because that's what you need for your license through Albany, or it could go to 40 weeks, and that's more for some of the New York State licensure programs or those that have a required number of hours for the program.
So Patty, in your time at REOC, is there a success story that comes to mind that you'd like to share?
Well, I have a lot of success stories because I think all of our students are success stories. But without mentioning names, I have an individual who right now kind of touches my heart, and he has gone through many tribulations, not only just to get to the EOC and, like I said, to take that first step, but he overcame some addiction problems, some problems with his life, and he had to overcome those to come through our doors. But then while he was there, he also had some obstacles to overcome, and he stuck to it, and he is a successful member of our healthcare community out in here, and he's now going on to get his registered nurse license.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
We have college professors. We have individuals who work in 5-star restaurants down south and in the area right here, and some of our own success stories work at the EOC as well.
That's wonderful. And Roosevelt, what are the challenges that REOC faces as you offer these free programs to the community? How are you able to do that?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is our target is 1,300, but still a lot of students don't come to our EOC because they cannot afford to pay for parking, or they cannot afford to pay for the bus fare, daycare. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we face. The other challenge that we face is the program that we would like to offer. We have some challenges getting clinical sites.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. A wealth of information between the two of you. For more information about the Rochester Educational Opportunity Center, you can call 232-2730 or visit reoc.brockport.edu. Thanks for joining us on this edition of CityWise. I'm Tiana Stevens, and we'll see you next week.